This verse is very nice because it's talking about Kripnaha, and this concept also comes in Bhagavad Gita, I think, where Krishna is Srila Prabhupada is raising this concept of Kripna there in this Bhagavad Gita, and he says, he defines who is a Kripna, and he defines who is a Brahmana, which is completely opposite of Kripna. Kripna is, the Sanskrit meaning of Kripna is miser, and those people who a miser is one who actually amasses wealth, but he doesn't know, he doesn't spend wealth even on himself. That's a miser. Generally people earn money and they don't spend on others, but a Kripna doesn't spend wealth even on himself, and that's the whole problem there. So just like Avanti Brahman was there in Srimad Bhagavatam, he was a Kripna. वो हिंदी में भी say कंजूस मक्खी चूस. That's if anybody knows Hindi, they will understand what I'm talking about. So if a fly falls down in the milk, what the miser will do? He will take the fly and squeeze it and then take out the milk from that fly and then drink it, because he doesn't want to even waste that milk which a fly has taken. So that's a Kripna. So why normal ordinary people are called Kripna? Because this human body is very valuable. Human body is very valuable, and it is said by Prahlad Maharaj, Sudurlabham, Sulabham, Sukalpam. He says this body is achieved very rarely, but Sulabham, it's also achieved very easily. Very easily means we didn't do any effort to get this human body. Just by evolution, spiritual evolution, we got this human body. But it's very rarely achieved. That's the whole point. So this human body is a gift. Human body is a gift, and a precious gift where it's a precious gift that we can use it to cross this material ocean. We know 𝗙𝗶𝗹𝗶𝗋, Prahlad Maharaj says, it's a nice boat. It's a boat. Guru Karna Dharam, where Guru is a captain. And the breezes in that ocean are the breezes of love of God. And that's how we can cross this ocean. But the most important thing is a boat. So this is the most precious thing we have got. But if we don't use this precious thing for our own benefit, on real self-interest, what Prabhupada says, then we're a miser. Just like a miser, he even doesn't use the money which is earned on himself to enjoy, then he's called a miser. Similarly, we don't use his body, which is even more precious than money, we are called a miser. That's why scriptures call this such person as Kripna. And they say here, Naveda Kripna Shreya. Shreya means ultimate benefit. There are two concepts, Shreya and Preya. Now what are these? Well, Shreya means benefit, and Preya means interest. Preya means those things which gives you happiness. Shreya means those things which can give you happiness or cannot give you happiness, but it will benefit you. For example, for children, playing is Preya. They like that, they enjoy that, and then they play. But for children, studies are Shreya. Shreya means ultimate benefit. So even if they don't like studying, but they have to study because it will benefit them in the future. This is called as Shreya. This concept of Shreyas and Preyas is very prominent in Dharma Shastras. Dharma Shastras begin with this concept that, okay, now we are talking about Dharma, and this Dharma is talking about Shreya and not Preya. That's where they begin. But there is something called, but there is another concept in Vedas which is called as pravritti and nivritti. So within Shreya, there are two other things, pravritti and nivritti. So Dharma Shastra says, okay, we will tell you what is for your benefit, but many people will not like that. Isn't it? You can tell a child, studies are beneficial to you, but child will not like. So what's the option? So the parents will say, okay, for part-time you study and part-time you play. You should balance. Okay, you like playing, fine, playing is allowed, but in the evening and whole day you should study. So there's a compromise in between. So that's why Dharma Shastra says, although there are two things, Preya and Shreya, but within Shreya there are two brackets, Pravritti Marg, Nivritti Marg. Nivritti Marg is, okay, what is for your benefit, you do that and that's it. Don't do anything which is enjoyable and pleasing to you, because that's a block to attain God. So then they will say, okay, fine, you can do, can you close this window? So then they can say, okay, you should practice renunciation, tapasya, swadhyay, etc., etc. And that's called nivritti marg. Absolutely no sense enjoyment. But then there are majority of people cannot practice this. So for them, Dharma Shastra is, okay, you should practice all these renunciation and austerities, and you should be strict with yourself and rules and regulations, but you can also enjoy within scriptural limits. You can do that. For example, Prabhupada says, for example, Shreya, if you go in Nivritti Marg, then they will suggest, okay, don't marry, become 𝗦𝗪𝗀𝗋𝗪𝗃 brahmachari, lead your life. Why to become entangled in married life? But then many people cannot practice this, so for them pravritti marg. So then they marry. Because for them there is, okay, you can marry and then follow rules and regulations of married life. That's what it is mentioned. So you can there's a license for sense enjoyment. It's like, okay, you should study, but for some time you can play. Like that. That's called pravritti marg. You can fulfill your desires within scriptural limits. That's the whole idea. Fulfill your desires within scriptural limits. That's called as Shreya. That's called as pravritti marg, within Shreya. So Manu Samhita says, Nivritti tu mahaphalam. Although pravritti marg is mentioned in scriptures, there is limited scriptural sense enjoyment, a license is given there, but nivritti tu mahaphalam. But real advice of scripture is nivritti. Leave all sense enjoyment. That's the ultimate benefit of soul. Leave all sense enjoyment. But if you cannot, then there is within that bracket pravritti marg. You can do limited sense enjoyment according to scriptural rules and regulations, but ultimate target should be nivritti. So here we have Shreyas. So you understood. So we have in scriptures we have Shreya and Preya, and within Shreya we have pravritti and nivritti. That's what we have to understand. So it is said here, na veda kripnaha Shreya. Misers means ordinary materialistic people. They have no kind of understanding of what is Shreya. They only go by Preya. They only go by what they like. That's ordinary people, isn't it? What they like, they do. I like this. I like to eat this, they'll eat. I like to do this, they will eat that. Their whole premise of their life The whole working principle in life is, what I like, I'll do it, that's all. Why should I think thrice whether should I do it or not do it? Why should I do it? Just do it. You might have seen on the shirts, isn't it? Just do it. That's those people are misers. They don't use this beautiful gift of human life which is given to us, human intelligence, human language which is there to glorify Krishna, this eyes which is there to see beautiful form of Krishna, this cognitive faculties of mind that we can appreciate that beauty, and we can also feel the various qualities of Krishna. This is not there in animal life. This is the special gift to humans, and if we don't use it to serve Krishna, we are misers. That's all. We can use it for ourselves, but if we don't use it for Krishna, we are misers. If we don't use all these faculties to benefit others, then we are misers. We just keep money, just keep this human life to us, and that's all. So, Naveda Shreya Kripna Shreya Atmano Gunavastu Trik. Now they explain, okay, who is a miser? Who doesn't know Shreya, the ultimate real self-interest for the soul, which is bhakti, which is to serve God. Atmano Guna Vastudrik. And what actually so what these people do is, ordinary people who are not devotees, they're talking about non-devotees, what they do is Atmano Guna Vastudrik. Atmano means they see. Guna Vastu Drik. Drik means to see. Drik means to see. And Vastu means object. And Guna means modes of material nature. So these people, they cannot see God behind creation. They see just creation. That's what these people are. Just like a miser can only see money, and they cannot see people behind money, or relations, or society. They are only seeing money. They can even destroy their relations or anything for money. That's what a miser is. So these people see Guna Vastudrik. These people see only Guna means modes, or creation, or desires. So who is a miser? They simply see, they can see only their self-interest, selfish desires, and they cannot see anything beyond it. That's all. Selfishness. Their whole Atmano means of the soul. Atmano also means dear. Can you just tell them to close the door and talk? Atmano means dear. What is dear to them? Dear to them is their selfishness. That's what is dear to them. That's what these people like. People don't like money. People don't like non-devotees. They don't like money. They don't like others. They like their own selfishness. That's all. In one sense, non-devotees are narcissists. They're simply interested in themselves. That's it. That's what is said. Atmano Guna Vastudrik. Guna Vastu Drik. Drik means to see. Guna Vastu means their desires. And Atmana means what is dear to them. That's the story of our non-devotees. You see, the scriptures are so nice. They have summarized the entire word in one line. Naveda Kripna Shreya Atmana Guna Vastu Drik. This is his material world. That's all. This is material life. That's it. Material life is based on selfishness. And a miser is a selfish person, isn't it? That's all. So, but the next part of the verse is important. Next part says, 𝗙𝗲𝗃 𝗪𝗔𝗔. Next part says, okay, if a miser, if non-devotees, they desire something for their selfish interest, they are nonsense, of course. That life is nonsense, material life, selfish life. But if another person who fulfills his desire, he is equally nonsense. That's all. He is equally nonsense. And that's what Krishna says. Krishna says, so many people come to me for fulfilling their desires, and if I fulfill their desires, then I am equally nonsense. And that's why Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is that verse is quoted. Hame vigya ek murkh vishay ke na dibe. Krishna thinks in himself, see, I am intelligent and he is foolish. He is coming to me to ask so many things. And okay, fine, he can ask so many things, but he will use it only for himself. That's the problem. A devotee might also ask Krishna, but he will ask for the benefit of others. So Krishna knows he's asking his materialistic desires. First of all, a devotee never asks for material desires. Even if he does it, it's for benefit of others or to serve Krishna. And that's okay. For example, 𝗙𝗃𝗃, he desired that I should become Gandharva, and I should, with all the Gandharvas, I should simply dance and sing and glorify you. That desire was okay, although it was materialistic desire, but it was to serve Krishna, so that's fine enough. Or for example, Aditi and Kashyap, they desired a son. That was okay, but that was to serve Krishna in 𝗪𝗪𝗶𝗪𝗪. Or maybe this Vasudev and Devaki, in their previous lives, they were, I think, Prishni and Sutapa. I think so, yeah, Prishni Sutapa. So they did a lot of austerities and they asked Krishna as a son because they wanted to serve him in 𝗪𝗪𝗔 ras. So that's fine. So even material desires are okay if it is to serve Krishna. But Krishna thinks, okay, I am intelligent, but this person is a miser and he will ask material desires, that's okay, but for himself, and he will not use these desires for serving me and benefiting others. So this is a miser. You ask money to someone, that's okay, we can give you money, but then, okay, why do you want that money? Okay, I'll keep everything to me, to myself. Then who is going to give you money to anybody else? If he says, okay, give me money and I will help others with this money, then okay, you can take double of it, isn't it? That's the whole point there. So Krishna thinks, okay, he is a foolish man, because if he asks material desires and he fulfill it, and if he use it for selfish desires, then his selfishness increases. The problem is not with material things or material desires. The problem is material desires feeds selfishness. That's the whole problem. Material desires which are for one's own self-enjoyment, that feeds selfishness. That's very important. And that's why there's a problem. There's no problem in asking Krishna something material. But if you use it for yourself, then that's a problem. And on the other hand, if you ask something spiritual from Krishna and you use it for yourself, that's also equally bad. That's also equally bad. So spiritual, and that can happen, isn't it? So what is liberation all about? You ask Krishna, liberate me. And then you ask for moksha, and Krishna says, okay, I'll give you moksha, but then that is purely for yourself. So that feeds your selfishness. You get moksha, but you become more selfish, and your disease increases. Our disease is that we are selfish. We are always thinking of ourselves. That's all. We never thought about others. We never thought about Krishna. We are occupied within ourselves, and the whole spiritual life is to take you out of yourself. That's the whole point. So if you ask, if you ask Krishna, please give me mercy so that I can advance in Krishna conscious life, that's okay in one sense. But if you are only asking this, give me mercy and let me advance, then that feeds your selfishness. You're selfish because you're thinking of yourself only. And that, although it appears spiritual, but it'll actually lead you down on spiritual path. A devotee doesn't ask mercy so that he can advance just for himself. Nityanand Prabhu, Narottam Das Thakur says, Nitaya More Karo Sukhi. He says, Nityanand Prabhu, he prays, Nityanand Prabhu, please give me mercy so that I can serve you, so that I can advance in spiritual life. And why do you want to advance? So that I can serve you more, better. And that's okay. So Gyanis and Yogis, they sometimes externally they also do bhajans and pray, but their bhajans and prayers are very selfish, because Gyanis, Yogis, they say, okay, give us mercy so that we become pure. Why we want to become pure? So that we want moksha, that's all. There is no concept of serving others. There is no concept of serving God. So that's very, very selfish. And that is where Bhagavatam begins with the concept, 𝗪𝗲𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗃 𝗪𝗏 satam, that leave all this cheating. Liberation, asking for liberation is the highest cheating which a soul can do. The highest cheating. Because it appears spiritual, but it feeds selfishness, and it will actually bind, ultimately it will bind you in this material world, in Janma Mrityu. And that is why Brahmaji says, Aryu Akrichena Param Padam Tata Patanti Adho, they will ultimately fall down. So, anywhere, even spiritual or material, it doesn't matter. If it is selfish, then it's bad. If it is selfless, then it's okay. So even material, if it is selfless, that's okay. Even spiritual, if it is selfish, that's bad. And that is why you see there's another deep point here. Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Mahaprabhu's teaching is, don't think in terms of spiritual and material. That will not help you. Our thinking is in terms of selfishness and selflessness. That's our thinking. We are not really concerned about material and spiritual. That is why devotee prays, whether I am in spiritual world or a material world, Krishna, I want to serve you, isn't it? That's the whole idea. Mama Janmani Janmaneshwari. Doesn't matter if I am in material world or spiritual world. But it's good, it's good if we are in spiritual world. Material world, there's so much problems here. Material body is another problem, but it ultimately doesn't matter until unless we are selflessly serving you. That's the whole point. So even in spiritual life, be careful. Be careful. We might be practicing spiritual life, but if the underlying base is selfishness, if you're doing everything for yourself, then that's a problem. That's why Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivedanta Swami Thakur and even Srila Prabhupada, they said, don't stay in Vrindavan permanently. Until unless there's some special service, that's okay, or you're advised by a spiritual master. Don't stay in Vrindavan, because staying in Vrindavan, doing your own bhajan is very, very, very selfish. Get out of Vrindavan and distribute Vrindavan to others, and that's a very good thing. So even in Christianity, it is said there are just two qualities you need to attain God. One is humility, of course, and the other is charity. Charity means preaching, means distributing love of God, distributing spirituality to others, distributing holy name to others. And it is said humility and charity, they both go together, hand in hand. There cannot be humility without charity, there cannot be charity without humility. By charity, I don't mean mundane charity, distributing food and all this kind of stuff. Distributing love of God and bhakti to others. So, but people who are not humble, people who are not charitable, who don't preach, they are not humble in the eyes of God. They are selfish, they are interested in themselves. Anybody who is interested in himself, that's called as ego, isn't it? And that's not humbleness. And anybody who claims himself to be humble and he is not preaching, then that means he's not humble. Anybody is preaching and he's saying he's humble, then it makes some sense. Because he is not, because anybody is preaching, he's saying, okay, I am not interested only in myself, I am interested in helping others and serving God and helping God. So both go together, remember this. So that is why this concept is very, very important. Don't think in terms of material and spiritual. You will be confused. We don't think in that way. Only in that way, I mean to say, there is a concept material and spiritual. But no, we don't think. And that is why there are principles of 𝗙𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀, using everything in service of Krishna. Srila Prabhupada says. Prabhupada says anything in the service of Krishna, that's spiritual, although the object may be material. So definition of spiritual material are also very different in our Gaudiya Vaishnavism. For Jnani, spiritual means an object which is not made of matter. And material means an object which is made of earth, fire, water, air, ether, of mind, intelligence, matter, some gross or subtle matter. But for Gaudiya Vaishnava, spiritual material, not that. For us, spiritual is anything which is connected to Krishna, that's spiritual. Anything which is not connected to Krishna, that's material. It's a very different understanding what we carry. For us, spiritual material are ontological. It's a functional concept. For Jnanis, it's a morphological. It's a concept. It's a concept which is related to objects. That's why Srila Prabhupada, one of the lecture, he said somebody offered apple to him, and he said, this apple is spiritual because it's offered to God. So, well, but the object is material, but it's spiritual. Prabhupada gives that example, an iron rod which is heated. If you heat the iron rod till it becomes red, it almost functions like fire. It's not fire, but it functions like fire. Red hot iron, you touch anything, it will burn. So in that, functionally iron rod becomes fire, but not materially. Materially, iron is iron. And Prabhupada says, similarly, when we serve Krishna, when we use our bodies in service of Krishna, functionally our body becomes spiritual. Materially, it is material. Of course, it's material. Functionally, it is spiritual. So we are very focused on function and not the object. Function is important, and that's why you see our sampradaya parampara. It's 𝗙liche parampara, isn't it? The whole disciple succession is 𝗙liche parampara. We are interested in the function, in the instructions which is behind the function. We are not interested in the objects or people. There are so many acharyas in our parampara, but our parampara is not mentioning strictly the connection between people. That's not what we are mentioning. That is Diksha parampara. Connection between people. We are interested in the function, what people are doing, and how people are connected functionally. That's called 𝗙liche parampara. So remember this, we don't think in terms of material and spiritual from a objective perspective. We don't think that like that. We think in terms of here it is said, we think in terms of function, selfishness and selflessness, anukul and pratikul, favorable and unfavorable, or connected with Krishna or disconnected with Krishna. That's what we think. Gaudiya Vaishnava thinking, Bhagavatam thinking is very different than what Upanishadic thinking is. That's very important to understand. And that's why Krishna says, any people come and people ask some material things from me. If they were asking material things for serving me, I would have given them, that's okay. But they're asking material things. First of all, they don't have any concept of spiritual things, and they only know material things. This is a miser, and they want to use only for themselves, and that's a problem. It will feed their selfishness, and the more selfish we are, the more entangled we are in these laws of karma. That's all. The more you are interested in yourself, the more you will be bonded in laws of karma. That's the law. That is the law. That is the law. The more we are interested in Krishna, the more we are qualified for getting out of birth and death. And that's why Krishna says, okay, I'll not fulfill his desire. And that's the second part of this verse. If he asks something, if that person 𝗙𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀 yadi, tan 𝗙𝗂𝗪𝗀𝗪𝗀 yadi. 𝗙𝗂𝗪 means desire, 𝗪𝗀𝗪 means if I give them if I give them what they desire, then 𝗙𝗲𝗃, 𝗪 अपि तथा and then I am also a foolish man. Krishna says, Prabhupada gives a nice example. If a child asks poison and the mother gives poison, she is a foolish mother. Child will die. So the person doesn't know what is harmless and harmful for him. And if I also increase his disease of selfishness, then I am also a foolish person. Servant can be the fool. Servant can be fool, but the master should not be a fool. The master should be intelligent, isn't it? The function of the master is to help the servant to grow. So Krishna is interesting. Krishna will not fulfill your desires. Sorry, if you are here to Krishna to fulfill your desires, better go to Lord Shiva and Durga. Don't come to Krishna. It will not happen here. He's not that kind of person. So he wants to see us become selfless. That's what he wants to see. And then he becomes very happy. And that's the whole point. That is why the concept of Kripna is there, miser. You see non-devotees, when I came to Krishna Consciousness, when I read Prabhupada's Gita, Prabhupada says non-devotees are misers. I used to think, what is this? There are so many people who are not misers. If I look at myself, I'm not a miser. I was a miser, but others, if I look, people are not misers. People spend money open-handedly and they're okay. Everybody is not a miser. I used to think, why Prabhupada is calling non-devotees miser? They could have called, Prabhupada used to call non-devotees rascal and cats and dogs and pigs. That's okay, that we understand. But miser of all, that I couldn't wrap my head, this concept. But now I understand that this is a absolute beautiful terminology, because the only qualification or disqualification which a miser has is selfishness, isn't it? He uses everything for himself. He doesn't distribute others. He doesn't share with anybody. And that's in hostel. We used to tell, "ये कंजूस मक्खी चूस है, अपने पास सब कुछ छुपा के रख लेता है." वो सारे स्वीट्स घर से आते थे और अपनी अलमारी में, it was in hostel. So he will not share sweets with anybody, and so that's the whole idea. And so miserliness is based on selfishness, and that I understood. Then I understood, actually that's why they are called as miser, because the disease is selfishness. Selfishness means I and mine. That you might have heard, मैं और मेरा. That is selfishness. So Krishna wants to see this. Krishna wants to see that whether we are selfish or selfless. You will go to spiritual world if you are selfless. Selfish people are not allowed there. They are not allowed. Because if you go to spiritual world, then you will make a mess out of that place, isn't it? You'll go there and you will ask, Krishna, give me mercy, and you will ask gopis, give me mercy. You'll ask Radha Lalita, give me mercy, and they'll become mad. They'll say, what the hell, you're in spiritual world here. You have to give us something, serve something, or you are simply always mercy. You're complete nonsense. So always asking mercy from Krishna, that's also not a good strategy. That's a selfishness. That is why Srila Prabhupada says the prayer, please engage me in your service. Isn't it? Oh Hare, engage me in your service. Oh Krishna, engage me in your service. Prabhupada never said, oh Hare, give me mercy. Oh Krishna, give me mercy. Although people who are mature, they understand that, okay, we are asking mercy to serve him. But ordinary people, they do not understand. That's why Prabhupada says, okay, simply pray, serve. I want to serve you. Then that in itself is mercy of God. So it's very difficult to get out of selfishness. It's very difficult. Grossly you can get out of selfishness, but it's very difficult when you come to spiritual line. It's very difficult to even identify that my actions are selfish or selfless. And that's what I mean to say. Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami defines love of God and lust, isn't it? Krishnendriya priti ichha dhare prem nam, atmendriya priti vancha tare boli kam. Lust and love. What is the difference? Selfishness. In love there is no selfishness. You see, even the desire to, let me put it like that, even the desire to see Krishna, that's selfish. Now you might say, there's a problem. Well, gopis are like that. The desire to see Krishna, the desire to see Krishna is not selfish, but to pray to Krishna, Krishna, please, please show yourself to me. That's in one sense selfishness, because you are saying, Krishna, please show yourself to me. Okay, I want to see you. No, gopis were not like that. When Krishna went to Mathura, what gopis said to Krishna? Krishna, please come to Vraj so that we can see you. Please come to Vraj if you so desire. If you're happy in Mathura, that's okay. Gopis had a desire to meet Krishna, but they didn't really express that desire. And they said, if you are okay in Mathura, that's okay. But if you do make your mind to come to Vraj, please come, because Nand Baba wants to see you, Yashoda Ma wants to see you, your friends want to see you, and we also want to see you. So it's not, gopis were not just thinking of themselves, they were thinking of all the devotees. So then it is a selfless desire. So that's why I usually tell, Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, if you think devotion is all about you and Krishna, then that's not devotion. That is completely selfish devotion. That's why Bhaktivedanta Thakur says, Radha bina Krishna imani. There has to be Radha in between. Because without Radha, you and Krishna, it's completely selfishness. As devotees, we don't want to meet Krishna. We want to make Radha meet Krishna. Just like Radha wanted to make Vrajvasis meet Krishna. That was a desire. So our desire is, we want to make Radha meet Krishna, and then we are happy. If you want to meet Krishna, then there's a whole problem there. Then that's a selfish devotion. And Krishna will never accept selfishness. Krishna says here, if I fulfill their selfish desires might be spiritual, but that doesn't matter, it's selfish. So I'm a fool. And that's why it's very important to identify what is selfishness, what is selflessness. It's very difficult after some time. And that is all what is Krishna consciousness. And that's what Krishna Consciousness Goswami says, lust and love appears same. Both appear gold. Lust is like a rusted iron. Rusted iron also appears gold. And brass also appears gold. Isn't it brass, isn't it? It also appears as gold. And gold is gold. In appearance they are same, but internally they are very different. So if you want to advance in Krishna consciousness, my advice is, try to have discrimination power between selfishness and selfless. Just focus your mind on this. Is my action, is my thought selfish or it's selfless? If you can discriminate between these two, this means you are advancing. And you will advance. Otherwise, you will just be stuck on the same platform. And we will never advance. We will be fulfilling our lusty desires in the garb of devotion, and that will be very, 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 very big disaster, because we have got a big gift here. First of all, human body, and second of all, Mahaprabhu's movement. We are there, and if we miss this opportunity by not really being intelligent enough to understand what Bhagavatam says and to discriminate between selfishness and selflessness, then we miss the whole point there. That's the whole thing. Hare Krishna, 𝗙cie 𝗹𝗹𝗀𝗀𝗪. Any questions, anything if you want to ask, I'll just stand up here.